Good morning, Bravo bosses, and welcome to the Bravo Investigator Podcast with me, your host, Dana. I hope we are now fully transitioned with the name change, so I Take Bravo Very Seriously is now the Bravo Investigator Podcast. So I no longer have an I Take Bravo Very Seriously podcast or Instagram. Just follow me everywhere at the Bravo Investigator Podcast, Instagram and TikTok at the Bravo Investigator. And guys, I also want to remind you that if you like this show, please leave a 5-star review. And if you leave a written review, put your Instagram handle in there so that I can send you stickers from Color Us Bravo. Follow them on Instagram. They're really great. They do these really amazing stickers and coloring books and drawings of Bravo Lebs. So if you give me a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, a written review, leave your Instagram handle in there, and then I will send you stickers from Color Us Bravo. So happy Monday. I hope everyone had a good week. I had a pretty good week. It was pretty intense at work. They accused me of sharing an internal document with someone who was applying for a job that was a friend of mine, and I didn't do that. And I just started working there, so I was very upset. I understand why they felt they needed to ask. I guess the testing portion that she had done looked very similar to some of our templates. Um, those of you who know a little bit about what I went through last year, I mean, I haven't told you guys much, but basically last year my job was living hell. So I've been really enjoying my new job that I've been at since December. I really love the people, but I sort of felt like I couldn't tell them much about me just because I'm just so nervous about revealing too much of myself because of just having such a bad experience at my last job. So this was really upsetting because it made me feel like not safe, and that's how I sort of felt at my last job because I felt like they were trying to fire me, so I constantly felt not safe. And now to be accused of sharing internal documents made me feel unsafe. But I did end up having a discussion about it with my manager. She said she believes me and that they're happy with me, so I feel better about it now. But it was a rough week. It was a little bit difficult. I hope you guys checked out all the episodes that I had last week. So last week's Pop Culture Pulse Check was with Sarah Heron from Us Weekly. That was a really cool episode. Then later in the week, I had Donna Bowling on, and we did Justin Baldoni versus Blake Lively. She's sort of the expert on that topic. And then on Saturday, I had Eleonora Srugo, who's the star of Selling the City on Netflix. I did a full exclusive interview with her. It's a really, really good show, guys. It's another one of these real estate reality shows, but it's a really good one. The final line of the whole thing is somebody saying, "Fuck you, Netflix." So I was like, ooh, I'm intrigued. So I checked it out. 8 episodes, really easy binge, but it's a good one. The relationships feel organic, and there's some characters you might remember from Million Dollar Listing New York from back in the day. So I don't know. I've always liked these shows because I like looking at the properties and the people and the outfits and stuff, and the drama's pretty good. The drama's pretty on fire. So today's episode is going to be pretty cool. Normally we do our pop culture pulse check. I noticed that there weren't a ton of news items in the Bravo sphere outside of Paige and Craig. So I thought, there's so much going on in the Paige and Craigdom that I thought I would bring on Ryan Bailey, who is the king of pop culture. You know him from his podcast, So Bad It's Good with Ryan Bailey, to sort of do a Craig and Paige timeline. We talked about their entire relationship from beginning to end, from before they met, how they met. We talked through their relationship and then the breakup and then the aftermath. So I have a whole episode of with Ryan Bailey today. I hope you guys really enjoy that. But before we get into it, there are a couple of news topics that I thought I would bring up. Like I said, there aren't that much, so I thought I would just do the couple of them, then we'll get into Ryan Bailey. So we're going to start with Summer House. And we had Lindsay Hubbard on the Housewives Nightcap podcast last week. And so she was talking about her relationship with her boyfriend. And she's saying that they're not currently living together, that her lease is up in June, and that she just hasn't decided yet because it's just not as much of a priority for her. What is more of a priority for her is having the baby. So at the same time that this came out, Dumois posted her podcast where she heard that Lindsay and her boyfriend have broken up. So I'm going to play you the difference in the clips between how Lindsay describes her current relationship status, and then I'll play you what Dumois says, and you guys can sort of listen and think for yourself.
In the romantic department after my breakup with Carl, right? And I think even though I got pregnant and then now have a baby, I have this mindset that like I'm not putting the pressure on the romantic department, and because I have the baby now. Like, that was my ultimate goal. And now I can take my time to make sure that, my romantic relationship is compatible and, is going to go the distance. I think that what I learned from my relationship with Carl is that nothing's guaranteed, and especially with men. And even in marriage, it's not guaranteed. So I just, I've said this all throughout my current relationship and all throughout the last year. Like, I'm not thinking about engagement and marriage still right now. Like, I am just living in the present as it comes. Yeah. And if it happens for me, amazing. And if it doesn't, then it wasn't meant to be. But I got my fairy tale.
You were meant to be her.
And then Dumois.
This is what that Lindsay and her boyfriend / baby daddy are splitting up.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
What? Tell me what you know.
That's all I can really say at this juncture. But that's what I heard. Yeah.
Wait.
That's all I know.
So it's crazy because I talked to Lauren and Emily from the Housewives Nightcap podcast who had Lindsay on Access Hollywood. And I was like, what was the vibe that you were getting from her? Was it that she and her boyfriend aren't together? And they were like, yeah, that was the vibe that we got, which is why we asked her about the living situation. So I was just like, wow, oh my God. Like, I feel bad for Lindsay, but she will be okay, obviously. I mean, at the end of the day, like she said, she just wants the baby. And so she has that now, and she has her person. She has her Gemma. If it doesn't work out with this guy, I mean, that sucks. She did end up posting like a day later a picture of the baby with the man hands, which is all she ever posts of like her boyfriend. So it's just like his hands surrounding the baby at the pediatrician appointment. And while, of course, whether or not they're together, he would still go to the pediatrician appointment, so it doesn't really mean anything. I definitely think she's posting it because she knows the rumors. She's a PR girly. She sees what's going on. She even came on Instagram to make comments about what Craig said on Watch What Happens Live, but then didn't say anything about this rumor. So the rumor is like really, really fiercely out there that she and her boyfriend are no longer together. But then today, so today is Sunday, Bravo and Cocktails posted something saying, where is it? It says Lindsay Hubbard and baby daddy at Hillstone right now sitting at a bar. So who knows? Or maybe they're co-parenting, or maybe they're still together, but they're in a really bad place. Like, who knows? Because they've only been together, what, exactly a year now. They started dating last January. Think about all the changes that their relationship has gone through from beginning to end. So within 2 months of dating, Lindsay gets pregnant. And during the time that you're pregnant, your body changes, your hormones change. So how were they even really getting to know each other during a period of time like that? Plus, the period of time that she wasn't pregnant was only like 2 months, right? And that's like your honeymoon stage where you're being your best self and not necessarily your real self. Then you're pregnant, so then you're your monster self. Then she gave birth, so we don't even know if she's going through any postpartum or anything like that. So I could just imagine their very short time together, the 1 year they've been together, just being such a roller coaster in terms of just getting to know each other because of the very different stages that Lindsay has been through and that even he has been through, going from being a single guy to now a father of one, right? So that's a lot. And it's a lot for any relationship to sort of go through. It's just weird for us because we haven't witnessed it. So it sort of seems like they have this perfect relationship up until now because we didn't know any different. She never talks about it. So I don't know if they'll stay together. I mean, knowing Lindsay, we know she is a difficult person to deal with, but we also kind of got information that ever since she's been pregnant, she's been like a much softer version of herself, despite us all hating that word, including her. So I'm really curious to see what happens with her and her partner, but regardless, I hope he stays in the baby's life no matter what. I hope he's a great father. That's really all that matters at the end of the day, that he's a good dad. And that's all we have really from Summer House. And then let's move on to Vanderpump Rules. So Lisa Vanderpump spoke to Us Weekly about James Kennedy. So we were waiting for her to speak forever, and then she finally did. I didn't end up posting this on Instagram because I didn't give a shit about what Lisa said. This is clearly somebody who just loves to support men and doesn't really think about the consequences, but then Kristen ended up responding to it, so I'm actually going to read the article for you guys to give you the context. So it says, Lisa Vanderpump, and this is to Us Weekly, Lisa Vanderpump is breaking her silence on James Kennedy's domestic violence incident with Ali Luber. I've spoken to James and to Ali at great length, Vanderpump 64 told Us Weekly exclusively at Hollywood Virgin Book launch party at the Abbey in West Hollywood on Wednesday, February 5th. Vanderpump pointed out that she would never drop the ball on somebody that I've supported and has had a troubled time, simply because cameras aren't currently rolling on Vanderpump Rules, and referred to herself as a sort of matriarch figure for Kennedy 33. The first and most important thing for me was to know what happened exactly, she continued. I didn't need to just hear from James. I needed to hear from Allie too. From her mouth, what happened. She told me categorically he didn't hurt her. He never hurts her. They were just both drinking. Kennedy and Luber 28 were both being ridiculous and arguing, which resulted in somebody calling the police. She basically said, "Oh yes, take him away. It'll teach him a lesson," Vanderpump told us. But no, he didn't hurt her categorically. She regrets what happened with how this blew up. Okay. I have so many things to say about this. And I didn't end up talking to you guys about this James Kennedy thing for a few weeks. One, because I was off for a week, and then last week I didn't have time with my guest. But I haven't talked to you guys since charges were not pressed against him. So, as we know, charges are not being pressed against him. And then Allie made a statement saying that she wishes him all the best, that he did not physically hurt her, and that she didn't like the narrative that was out there, and that they were just arguing about him drinking again. And she didn't like that it all went to where it went. And I didn't love that either. That statement to me, I also thought was strange because she also is using the same wording that his lawyers and his investigators were using when they said that she was not physically harmed. She used that same wording as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if he had her sign some sort of NDA to just, let him go on with the rest of his life unscathed. But the disconnect I keep having is between the police report and everybody continuing to say that she hasn't been categorically hurt. It's odd because you have Lisa and even Allie and some other people involved sort of saying, I can't believe it got blown up like this. Okay, but that the police report said female stated her boyfriend lifted her up and threw her to the ground. So that's why we thought something happened. I am still not clear as to what Lisa is saying here when she says, she basically said, oh yes, take him away, it'll teach him a lesson. I don't know. The way I read that, she's almost implying that maybe Allie lied to the police just to have him taken away to teach him a lesson, which I would never think would actually happen here. But that's what it sounds like she's implying, which is insane. It sounds like she's supporting James purely and not Allie. Because again, that's what the police report said. So unless we're saying the police lied, which isn't crazy, but no one has said that yet. No one has said that the police report is false, but that's what the police report said. So again, I still don't understand the disconnect between what was said in the police report and everybody acting like it's so bizarre that the rest of the world thought that she was hurt. So I'm just saying that. And then Kristen Doherty sort of came for this. So she noticed this article that Lisa had been a part of, and she made the following comments. She wrote, absolutely and disgustingly diabolical. I will never ever be okay with this constant abuse enabling behavior. To have the audacity to dumb down not only facts, but also feelings makes me sick to my stomach. To every woman who was a survivor of DV and wasn't believed or supported, I'm so sorry. And then someone also made a comment. Oh, sorry, guys. Someone also made a comment on Instagram saying, was she always this gross and I missed it about Lisa Vanderpump? And Kristen wrote yes. So, first of all, I kind of love that everyone is just having no fear of Lisa anymore. Kristen is coming out of the woodwork. Even Sheena has come out of the woodwork against Lisa before. Brittany on her podcast When Reality Hits this past week even said that Lisa has never reached out to her, not about Cruz, not about the divorce, not about anything. I guess she is still an EP of the Valley, but I guess not very involved because nobody cares to come for her when they used to be so afraid of her. So good, you are no longer the matriarch, Lisa. And yeah, you are dumbing this down. You're making this seem like, no, this is just a very small event. Nobody was hurt. Nothing happened here. Let's support men. Let's continue to support this man. Okay, but what about all those years that you were supporting him when he was doing horrible, diabolical things, right? Like, she hated Kristen for such a long time for yelling, fuck you, Diana, when she knew that, for example, Kristen, or that James had pushed Kristen into a bush. But she continues to support men, continues to support his body shaming, all the thing he did over the years, continuing to give him his job back, continuing to allow him to be on this show. And then this is just like the final nail in the coffin. Like, of course she's supporting him. Of course she is. This is just typical behavior. It would be nice to see something happen to Lisa going forward where she doesn't have the same amount of power that she's always had. It would be nice to see the tables turn or the tides turn a little. It just would be nice, but I don't know if that'll happen. And then let's just quickly move on to RHONY. So Sonja Morgan's ex-husband, Quincy Morgan's father, I don't even know his real name, John Morgan, I guess. He has passed away, which is really sad. I do not know the age of this man when he passed away, but it's sad for Quincy because Sonja was significantly younger than him, and then so obviously his daughter is quite young. I think she's only like 21 or 22. And this is going to be sad for Sonja because she's never really gotten over him. You don't touch the Morgan letters, and she's always seen him as her forever person in her mind. So like that was her one great love. So I could see this being a real tragedy for her. And then just lastly, in other RHONY news, we just got notification from Rebecca Minkoff. Remember her? She was on RHONY this year. You may have forgotten because she never said anything, but she has made a statement about not returning to RHONY. So this is her statement. 2025 is a new beginning for me, and with current events in the world, I'm reminded of the importance of family, friends, and community now more than ever. The last month has given me a new perspective of wanting to focus on my wildly amazing 4 kids, my supportive husband, and my business of 20 years, my female founder collective, my podcast, and my book. I didn't know she had a podcast or a book. As much as I've learned along the way with this franchise and fans, I want to reprioritize the things that have meant the most to me: designing, giving back, supporting women, and raising my family. I'm truly grateful for the experience, the friendships, and the fans that have been a part of the RHONY chapter. Time to turn the page. All right. See you never. Still don't know what's happening with RHONY. I still believe that we should be casting them with the Summer House cast because you guys, the meme that I made suggesting that the Summer House girls replace the RHONY cast got 10,000 likes today. And then I tagged Andy in it to say like, hey, Andy, this needs to go forward. And he looked at it. He looked at it. So we're almost there, you guys. We're almost there. All right, so let's get into the episode with Ryan Bailey where we talk all things Paige and Craig. And just before that, I just want to remind you guys the format of the show. So every Monday is Pop Culture Pulse Check, which I give you all your pop culture stories, mostly Bravo, but sometimes The Bachelor, sometimes Love is Blind, sometimes other reality TV news. So that's every Monday, and that is audio and video. And then every Saturday, I give you mini recaps of your favorite Bravo shows, and those episodes are audio only. And then once a month, I'm doing a new limited series called Be True Hollywood Story, where I'm giving you the story of your favorite Bravo lebs from birth to scandal to stardom and everything in between. So I've done Stassi Schroeder, Denise Richards, and Kristen Doty, and those have all been really, really fun. Those episodes are audio only as well. So I hope you guys enjoyed the episode with Ryan Bailey, and I love you, BBs. I will see you next time. Ryan Bailey, welcome to the Bravo Investigator Podcast.
It's good. It's good to be investigated. What are we investigating? Like, what? It's just. By the way, who would have thought? I love that. Watching Bravo for so long, and we both have podcasts now. It is kind of, we've turned into investigators and unprofessional lawyers.
Yes.
We, all of these things that when I started watching these shows at the like the first night of OC. I watched the premiere episode the night that it aired. I never in a million years thought that my world would just now completely revolve around this professionally. It's wild. It's sad. There's so many emotions when I'm like, wow, I think about these people every day of my life now.
But I think you kind of hit the ground running with your name. So for everyone that doesn't already know Ryan Bailey, which I'm sure you do, but if you don't, he has the amazing podcast, So Bad It's Good with Ryan Bailey. And that is what it is, because don't you find that when you tell people that you're into this stuff, they roll their eyes because there's sort of that impression that it's stupid, it's trivial. But I mean, the job that I have during the day is very hard and complicated, and I like to do something a little more mindless. But what we enjoy about it, what people don't seem to understand, is that it's so bad it's good. Like, we're making fun of it. We know it's not quality TV. We know that.
That was the thing. I mean, that was the thing, was that growing up, like even since a kid, I always loved this stuff. Like I always loved pop culture. Reality shows really weren't like there yet.
Right.
But like everything else I was so obsessed with, and I was in Kansas, so you couldn't really get the access to everything. So anything I could get my hands on, it meant so much to me. But there was always this, like sports gets more respect even in terms of pop culture, or like, but then you're like, the thing is, it's so bad, it's good. But at the same time, like what I always try to tell the audience and myself is that lean into what you love. If you love it, that all of a sudden makes it relevant. It makes it relevant to you. And what you'll find with all of these shows is that, yes, it's mindless and all of this stuff, but then there'll be issues presented that you're like, this is actually way deeper than people give it credit for. And we actually see humanity through a different lens. And you can sometimes relate. You can sometimes really quickly, we can be judge, jury, and executioner. It can sometimes be dangerous. We can't do that for our own lives. So it is interesting to see all of these things play out. And you're like, oh, I've been there before, or I think I know how that feels. I could be wrong, but I know how that feels. And I mean, in the Bravo universe, especially, just things are so bonkers. Like it's like Bravo's like just gotten on steroids the last 5 years. But I will say the state of the world now, reality shows are starting to like actually be like, oh, well, life actually feels like a reality show now. And the reality shows themselves are feeling like more of a safe respite from the universe.
That is such a good point. My therapist is like, you need to find like what makes you feel safe. I'm like, reality TV? And that's
Oh yeah.
weird, but okay, that's my safe
No,
space.
I talked to my therapist about reality TV. I was like, she's like, why are you upset? Oh, I had to interview this OC person from the Housewives show. And I like, those things, it is like become a part of my life in like
Yeah.
every aspect. And, it's very weird. It's very weird what we do. It's very weird.
It's weird what we do, but also beautiful because think about the fact that you just said you now do this for a living. You get to
Yeah.
do what you love for a living. Not everybody does. So I think we should be so thankful for that. I mean, I don't get paid for this, but
Oh,
I very
I'm
much enjoy
thankful.
what we do.
I'm thankful every day, and the thing is, I mean, but I've never had some like. Listen, I've been a not a. I mean, I've been a failed actor, I guess. Like I didn't make my living as an actor, but I did things here and there, and I mean, this is the first thing where people have actually given a shit at all. And but by the way, also the hardest I've ever worked in my life at something. Hardest I mean, I have never worked this hard in my life, and I still every day feel like I'm failing. Every day, without fail. Like every day, I will go to bed going, I didn't do this, I didn't do that. Oh, I sucked at this, I sucked at that. That's always just been my negative self-talk. But at the same time, man, I also am so appreciative of this is the only place where I actually have a voice.
Yes.
Like where I, even if I'm wrong, even if people at home are listening going, what is this guy going on about? He's insane. It's ridiculous. And yes, I am appreciative for that. And I've always said I started off doing this for free. I did this for free for years. Like, so the fact that I actually do get paid, like, and by the way, not a millionaire, not even close, not even like we're talking thousandaire status, but it's just wild. Like I'm just so thankful in that capacity, in
And
that sense.
And I want to just say, I want to speak for the fandom and say, like, you may go to bed every night feeling like, oh, I made all these mistakes, but you really have changed a lot of people's lives. Like, I sort of came into Bravo podcast right after Scandival, and because I wanted to have the conversation, and I'm like, where can I talk to people about this? And that's when I discovered Bravo podcast, and I discovered you, and it was a period of time in my life for a lot of people as well who were just happened to be going through a depression or going through a hard time. And so there were people like you who really did help a lot of us and gave us something to look forward to and be excited about during that period of time. So I do want you to know you have changed a lot of people's lives in a very positive way.
That's amazing to hear, and never something that I think about, but it's such a great byproduct of it because
Hmm.
I'm somebody that deals with depression and somebody that I antidepressants every day, all of this stuff. So it's so
Hello.
amazing to hear. Yeah, I mean, like, and by the way, there's no shame in that. I
No.
always love openly talking about that. But that is so amazing to hear. But also at the same time, it's just like I do it for myself. Like, I mean, like people, I'm like, I release so many episodes. People are like, stop. And I'm like, I can't. It's the only thing that calms me down, you know?
Well, then you found something that you love, and I love that for you. And I wanted you here today because, as we know, I don't know if you heard, but Craig and Paige broke up. I'm sure you've heard. You heard.
What?
So,
Oh, you've ruined my year. Oh
all of
no.
2025.
Who did it? Oh, did Craig
Uh,
break up with her? Who did it? What happened?
That
Yeah.
sounds like what happened. But, it sort of turned into a back and forth and back and forth. And like, I'm not quite sure when it'll end. But regardless, I thought it'd be kind of fun to do like a Craig exploration, if you will, or like kind of go back in time and look a little bit at their relationship. It won't take us that long because Craig and Paige kind of kept the bulk of their actual relationship pretty private. So we didn't get to see a lot of it. But if you go back and you look at the time prior to them dating, how they got together, and then all the stuff that's been happening in the past week or couple months, I guess the aftermath. It's been a wild ride. So I thought, I'd have you come with me because you are a Bravo historian, you know it all, and I'm sure you
Well,
remember all
this
of
will
it.
be fun. This will be fun for everybody unless you're Craig and Paige. And if you're Craig
Right.
and Paige, do not listen to this. Don't even pick it up. Whatever. Don't get hurt. I mean, because this, you can just imagine, like, we've all had relationships and potentially we've all had relationships that have broken up. I always just think, like, how insane would it be if people were doing podcasts about your breakups? Like, that's insane. But that is also the trade-off of being on reality television, right? It's like it almost gives you this free pass to speculate and talk about two people that at one time were in love.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds crazy because we would hate it if it were done to our lives, but we're also not on reality television. So there's that. By the way, this only helps both of their shows, Summer House and Southern Charm.
Yeah, because Southern Charm isn't really great this season. But anyways, let's get into it. So I believe, and I could be wrong, but I think they actually met in 2019 in season 4 of Summer House. Do you remember there was like a house party? And I think it was Craig and Austin that came, probably one of their 4th of July summer
Was
parties.
that the Austin when he was like wasted trying to hit on Lindsay and Sierra at the same time?
I
Or
think it was
no,
actually before that. I think he was
before that.
hitting
Okay,
on
okay.
Hannah. I think he was hitting on Hannah.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Okay, nice. Nice.
And there was that girl, Jules. I don't know if you remember her because she
Yeah, I
did not
remember
really
Jules,
stand
yeah.
out. Okay.
One season, right?
Yeah, one season wonder. And she actually slept with Craig that night. Do you remember
Good
that?
for her. Wow, good for her. Yeah, by the way, I love that, like, by the way, I don't want to know body counts on any of them, but you
Oh, I
have
hate
to
that
imagine
term.
Craig has slept with Craig has made love to a lot of people. Let's just say that. And I just love how messy their earlier Bravo years are. I mean, Austin included with the Madison. I mean, it is wild. So it is funny that he has sowed his wild oats and he got to a point where he could be in what he wanted to be the last relationship of his life.
Oh my gosh, that's so true because we saw him in such a different light. So we go into Winter House season 1, and I don't know how many people were into that show. It wasn't great, but at this period of time, Paige has broken up with her boyfriend Perry, and Craig has been with his girlfriend Natalie for 10 months, who I don't think we really got to see at all in like a show capacity, but 10 months is like almost a year. And
Yeah.
in rewatching this weekend, he's like totally happy with Natalie. We're in a great relationship. So he goes on this
And wasn't that also a COVID relationship as well?
Yes,
Or in
yes,
like in
yes,
that, yeah. So a
yes.
COVID relationship is also like an added, I don't know if you can add an extra year onto that. It might be a year and 10 months because
Fair
COVID was
enough.
like so intense.
Yeah, so they've been together for like a decade at this point,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so they're in Winter House and they're going to be there for 17 days. And in this 17 days, he decides that he is just not sure about Natalie anymore. Because
Yeah.
apparently what happens is that Austin gets a call from Madison's friend because Madison is in the hospital. Madison, but they're not together
Madison.
at this time.
Yeah.
And Craig is livid. He's like, don't let her bring you in. And then apparently Natalie went to lunch with Madison, and this made Craig livid. Now, it's so funny to look at it now because if everyone remembers, and I don't think people do, the season prior of Summer House, Craig was the one blasting at the reunion that Madison had like a flirtation or affair or something with Alex Rodriguez, which ended up
Yeah.
breaking up. Alex Rodriguez
And
and
then we got
Jennifer
Ben
Lopez.
Affleck and J-Lo who have now broken up.
Such a butterfly
it was
effect.
such an amazing time in Bravo history and lore because you're like, whoa, we've hit the A-list. Like somehow Madison with Alex Rodriguez to Ben Affleck to J-Lo. It was a huge time for Bravo fans because we're like, we're finally getting seen by the A-list.
Totally. But Craig hates Madison at this point.
Yeah.
Hates her. He's not allowing Austin to speak with her. The fact that his girlfriend Natalie has gone to lunch with Madison, he's saying this is something about her character. This is something that I didn't know about her. And I'm like, okay, that's a lot, right? Just to ask her for one meal, considering where we see Craig and Madison now. Besties. They're the closest of friends.
Never
And
give up, folks. Like, also, just realize you can never 100% say you just like it's like I've made this mistake in the past. Never 100% say you hate somebody because eventually life is just weird that way. You will either grow to respect them, be cordial with them, whatever. But it is so funny because Craig does this so many times. He has a blanket statement about somebody and then it changes. I mean, we're seeing a little bit with JT this season. Like, I can't deal with you, JT, and then I'm out fishing with JT.
yeah, totally. And then he also says, Craig says he has, or sorry, he also says, I haven't been as close with her on this vacation as I normally am. Yeah, because you're on vacation and she's at home. Of course. Of
Yeah,
course,
yeah,
you're not as close on this vacation as
yeah.
you normally are. So his thought process during all of this is just wild to me. And it's totally exactly what you're saying about hating someone and then liking them again. Because to break up with your girlfriend of almost a year because she likes someone that you don't like, who a year later you're gonna like just fine, he could have been married to her by now.
Well, listen, at this point, you would have to imagine, and a lot of men do this, is that they put an obstacle in their path just because, maybe not consciously, but subconsciously, they know they don't want to be with this person. So they are literally looking for any reason they
That's
can.
true.
And it's like, you know what it is? It's your character. You hung out with Madison. I mean, that's a no-brainer. I can't be with you now. I can't be with you. You know, it's so also just the male dominance, like just
Yes.
stupid male bullshit that you're like, okay. And it's very Craig. And by the way, if you also did you read Craig? This is so embarrassing to admit. Did you read Craig's book?
No, I haven't, but I would.
I've read, well, I've listened to Craig's book. I've
Okay.
listened to
Yes,
the
that's what I mean.
audiobook. And also, like, he talks about, like, I think he was picked on a lot as a kid. I think that's why when he was made fun of as a kid, it bothered him. And that's why I think he gets so upset when, like, Shep would pick on him.
Mm.
I think there's a deep insecurity in Craig, and we've seen it through the seasons. And sometimes when you're so insecure, that makes you so much more trying to assert dominance in other relationships, and
Mhm.
especially female ones.
Are you gonna make me feel bad for him and not let me talk shit about him for the rest of this?
No, 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 no. But
Okay.
by the way, but no, 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 no. You see, it's so funny. No, you can totally talk shit about him. I'm just always looking for like what made somebody this way. And talking about all these people, all the Bravo men seem to fit in a certain pattern. And I've
Mhm.
seen sometimes, oh, I've done things like this too. Then you can actually like, oh, just males in general. Like, and I know that everybody's a special, unique snowflake, but there are patterns that we've seen again and again. The only thing I will say is that like, and this is not kissing Craig's ass, is that he's the only one that's maybe attempting to change. I mean, he loves to brag about change. He loves to brag about like, I'm a better person, I'm this, that. But he also is one that is like, okay, I actually see more moves than I have from like Austin or Shep.
I totally give him that for sure. And then during this whole time, he's really not paying attention to Paige because Paige is literally has her legs wrapped around Andrea the whole time. He's hot, he's Italian, he's everything. And she's just
Yeah.
like, single Paige. She has no
Yeah.
strings. So they have like not even interacted basically during this 17 days. But, Craig comes home and he's like, well, I'm going to end my 1 year relationship with my girlfriend because she ate lunch. And it's over. So I guess during some period of time, then Paige and Craig start texting and talking. And she stops talking to Andrea and she's just talking to Craig, but she's talking to other guys. So she comes into season 6 of Summer House and she's like, so I'm like hanging out with Craig, but we're not official. And she's very excited about this idea, right? A woman on the prowl and I'm gonna date all these guys and it's gonna be so much fun. Until she finds out while she's in the house, brought to her by Lindsay, that Dumois said, and it actually says Dumois said, so I actually can't believe Dumois is
I
actually
love how
mentioned
much
in the episode.
Dumois is so much a part of the Summer House lore at this point. It's so funny.
It really is. I actually had no idea. But yeah, so she's part of the lore. And it's like Dumas said that Craig or Austin slept with or is sleeping with Kristen Cavallari.
Yeah.
And what Craig decides to do with that is gaslight Paige into getting mad at Lindsay for telling her this, gaslight Paige into not being upset about this because he's like, we're not exclusive, so you have no right to be upset about it. But she's upset. Like she's upset. I mean, it's understandable.
Yeah.
It's embarrassing. It's a public
Yeah.
figure. It's in Dumois, right? So it's sort of everywhere. But he's mad at Lindsay for giving Paige this information, and then he's mad at Paige for getting upset with this information. And it's
Yeah.
no.
Well, there's no understanding, that's the other thing. We're kind of blockheads in the sense that we just don't seem to understand, the reality of somebody else's feelings. So it like me, Craig mad, me, Craig hurt, me, Craig blame other people instead of me looking inward and what this so it's very like this kind of basic train of thought. And that he probably, what I would assume, had deeper feelings for Paige than he was comfortable with. So
Mhm.
he's upset, but he can't still be single Craig. And he's realizing, uh-oh, this is what, oh no, feelings. I don't know how to feel
Yeah.
about this. So I'll just be angry at other people.
Well, even her, because he says, if you let Lindsay get in your head, you're weaker than I thought.
It's the same thing he
These
did with what you just
words.
talked about with the girl from COVID, is that
Yeah.
like if you went to lunch with Madison, this is where it develops a pattern. Like this is what
Right.
has worked for him in the past.
And he's saying to Paige, like, you didn't want to be exclusive. And then Paige is saying, like, she feels stupid and naive, which is completely understandable. But then she's like, okay, well, okay, he's right. We're not exclusive. So I'm going to go do me. And so Andrea comes to visit for the weekend and she kisses him. And then Craig gets upset and he says, I trusted you. This is, and I don't love to use the word gaslighting because it's overused, but this does meet the definition. Sorry, it does.
But I also, it's just so, oh God, it's just so interesting because it is textbook definition of gaslighting. But at the same time, how often do men or even women that gaslight people realize I am fully gaslighting right now? Like, or is it just so ingrained in their DNA of this is how I go about things that they still fully believe they are in the right. They fully believe they are in the right for doing this and not being able to look outside of themselves.
That's something we'll see a little bit when we head over to Winter House season 2, because Paige starts to notice that about him quite a bit. But basically, then we sort of see Paige and Craig have these conversations, and it's just so weird to see them in these different, I guess, driver's seats, where we see Paige being like, ugh, I hate being this kind of girl, but, what are we? And he's like, I don't think it would be appropriate for us to say we're exclusive because it would just end. So why don't we just continue getting to know each other? And eventually it'll get to a point where it would be inappropriate for us to see other people, which is by the end of that, I was
like,
by the way,
okay. if you look at just this past week's episode, seems to be his modus operandi the entire time of like, well, I mean, we're getting older. You said you want to marry, so I guess eventually we'll just get married. Like, he wants a firm date, but he's like, everything is kind of like, well, we'll know when we get to that point. Or, and Paige in this sense, at fast forwarding is, she keeps pushing that goalpost of when she wants to be married potentially and start a family.
Yeah, but it's just interesting to watch them in those different, where he's sort of dictating where their relationship is at that point because she's saying, what are we? And he's like, I'll let you know. So it's
interesting though, because I've always thought, I think I've had a tenuous relationship with Paige just viewing her on television. And it would also be interesting. Well, just in the fact that I didn't, I always thought she was great in her talking head footage. I thought she was really smart and funny. I think I was like one of the people that really hit the, now it's been so many years, but, the bed bug thing that she would just lay in bed. I was like, it's not called summer bed. It's called summer house. Let's get up. Let's get moving. And I was like, but I've grown to appreciate and really respect her more. And but also just in terms of her past relationships, coming out of the relationship you said when she started on Summer House, it's been interesting. And I would love to know more about her previous relationships, even though they weren't on TV, to see how she's handled relationships in the past. But I will say to fast forward where we are now, I have deep empathy for Craig, but I have a lot of respect and very much Team Paige in the sense of like, yeah, man, like, I mean, she told, she wasn't there and she admitted it. I believe her. And I just think she is probably near the height of her powers in terms of she's one of the only people that doesn't need reality television at this point. And I think that is really something to admire, especially for women, but for men as well, because I don't think people are used to a woman spitting facts like that. Just going boom, boom, boom. This is how I feel. I want to take care of me. I love myself. I think that's really an exciting notion. So Paige is like, I'm now at a point where I'm like, am I going to start listening to Giggly Squad? Like I'm at that point where I really like her, but I have deep empathy for Craig. Sorry to interrupt.
No, totally not interrupting. It's a podcast. I mean, it's a conversation, but no, I totally agree with you because I think, and we'll get to it maybe at the end, but there is this instinct to take sides, even though they don't want us to take sides, and we shouldn't take sides. But there is no side.
But that's what Bravo. But see, that's human nature
us.
First off, and that's what Bravo wants us to do. Bravo wants us to keep this going. And like when you were saying about those initial texts between Craig and Paige, man, I know this isn't Baldoni Lively, but I hope some criminal activity happens so we can actually see the text. Because wouldn't you give everything to see them flirting with each other in the beginning? Like, what was Craig's moves? And like Paige is super smart. Did she let Craig feel like he was funnier than he is? Like what I would love to
Yes.
dissect those initial text exchanges of flirting between the two. So what I'm asking is for one of the two to have committed a crime in the last couple of years so we can then get these text exchanges into the court system and we can talk about them.
Right. We'll call it infopage.com.
Yeah,
Whatever the website is called.
yeah. Oh God,
Right.
Craig started a website with the amended complaint.
Oh my God, can you imagine? Well, one other thing that sort of comes out of season 6 is they finally do end up getting together. They go to Amanda and Kyle's wedding together. Kyle's wedding together. And it was again Dumois where Danielle had sent in
Craig
that
got thrown out,
blind
right?
item. But was it drugs or was it alcohol? Do you remember? What was the actual story?
I thought it was alcohol, but I never dug for the official story. And I think Danielle admitted that it was her. I mean, obviously something happened, and I like when Bravo or not Bravo or the castmates try to cover up things for other people. But also that instance itself, also, if you fast forward to Amanda and Kyle's comments about Craig saying that he should have stood up for Paige and said she wasn't cheating in this relationship, you have to remember that Amanda and Kyle have a deep history with Craig. Not only are there spritzer wars between Kyle and Craig, which we'll see this season,
Right.
but also Amanda, he got kicked out of their wedding. This guy has caused trouble for them through the years, even though they liked him. Even though he's really charming. So it does, once again, these patterns of behavior lead us to the future.
Well, what felt sort of like a non-pattern, and one other thing I just want to mention about season 6 is we really have Paige at the end saying, okay, guys, when are we all moving to Charleston? And I feel like we never saw her act that way again. It was just shocking to see her so excited about a place she would never want to go.
People forget for like the first year when she was on Southern Charm and Summer House, she would say, I totally can see myself living here, raising a family. And it really was, for me, I was like, oh, game over. It's done. Like, this is in game. Because I was like, wow, she really seems like this is her deal.
Yeah.
And she has moved further and further away from that first year where she was really picturing Charleston. So it became a running joke. Like, Craig's like building a pool, like, hey, chicken, what color do you want the pool? It became less and less of a thing for her as not her career took off, but we all go through changes. But yeah, people forget that she was really gung-ho for a moment on Charleston.
It's crazy to watch because I almost don't remember her that excited or ever excited about a place now that she kind of goes, ugh, about,
Yeah. Oh yeah. Now she's like, I don't like the outfits. I don't like the weather. I don't like the people. I don't like all of it. But at the beginning, she was excited. So we cannot forget those things.
Never forget.
By the way, wait. But in Paige's defense, isn't that also what we do in relationships though? Like when you are like, when in the beginning you're like, oh, I'm an actual alien from space. Oh, I love space. Oh, okay, that's cool to be with an alien. Like people will say, oh, I killed a hobo. Well, I'm sure the hobo did something to you. You seem like such a great person. Like you make excuses in that first year.
Totally. And I'm not like judging anyone whatsoever. This isn't like picking apart their relationship in any sense.
No, but it's
just one of those
fascinating
things
because
that
we
you
all
do.
do those things.
Yeah.
It's just that they have the unfortunate or fortunate thing that they're also on TV.
Yeah.
So we have specific instances to look at.
Exactly. So now we're in Winter House season 2. They have been dating for 5 months. They will be spending 17 days together in Vermont. Hopefully, don't break up over it like he does with Natalie. But this will be the longest that they've spent together. And basically, he just starts getting drunk and he's just acting a fool. And she doesn't like it. Not only does she not like it, she just doesn't want to be a part of it. So he starts like picking fights with Amanda because you'll get this because she's picking up glass off the floor and we should just be having fun.
Oh yeah.
So she doesn't.
Oh, was this the one when he was like throwing his money around?
Yeah.
When he's like, I'll pay for that.
So then he's throwing money around as well, not just to pay for like a cleaning lady, which, okay, good for you that you can afford a cleaning lady, but for the room as well. So when they walk in, he's like, I want this room. And Kyle's like, oh, this is our room. And he's like, I'll literally pay you for it. And that I didn't like. That was really icky. That reminded me of like Scott Disick shoving like money in that waiter's mouth, right? It was just like, I will pay you, sir. Like it was just for what I want. And I really
Get
didn't
out
like
of
that.
here. It's me, Scott. Get out of my face. Put this $100 bill in your mouth. Yeah.
Or even Jax Taylor, like, I'm way too old to be like lying on this kind of bed. And it's like, listen, we're all in this house. We're all equal in this house. It's not, it was just icky to be like handing money out as like, it makes it like I'm better than you. And she also noticed that she was saying he's sort of walking around like he's righteous and everything he does is right. but it's not. And it's really, really annoying me. And there's one point where she actually starts to cry to Amanda. She's just, but it's annoyance is what she's crying about. She's like,
Yeah.
sorry, I'm just so annoyed. And by the end of it, they're fine. And she says she's going to go live in Charleston for a month. But it was pretty interesting to sort of watch this dynamic because I actually didn't know that his alcoholism, well, I'm sorry, I don't want to call it alcoholism. When he drinks, I didn't notice really that it was such a problem to the point
Oh,
where she needs to get out of the room.
well, I mean, yeah, I mean, we've seen little examples, and it was that one. I think you've already brought up that one reunion when he with Madison and Alex
Mm.
Rodriguez when he was just hammered. So he was like, shit. He was like,
Wait, he was
yeah, just
hammered
tell
at the
it.
reunion?
Remember that when he was just really loose, and Andy was like, "Oh, dude," because he was just spouting it
I
off.
have
He
to
was just like,
check.
"Oh, you don't want to say that." He was in like the red checkered sports
Yes,
jacket,
yeah.
if I remember correctly, and he had been drinking and just kept drinking, and it was one of the more entertaining Southern Charm reunions because of his inebriated performance, where he was just firing shots everywhere.
I wonder if he ever apologized to Madison for that, or if she even wanted an apology because that really skyrocketed her into fame, I guess.
It's weird, like those moments can actually bring relevance in reality TV.
So many things can, like Hawk Tuah girl. Look at
Yeah,
that girl now.
yeah.
Look at her
Rest,
now.
rest in, rest in peace, Octo. I mean, who knows? She might be part of a Bitcoin like lawsuit. So,
Oh, why? Wait, what?
well, she sold Hawktua. I mean, this is like she sold. She was convinced to put her name on a meme coin that was sold on Twitter, and it turned out to be a gigantic scam that they used her as. And a lot of people lost a lot of money. That's why there hasn't been a new Hawktua podcast
Oh, I didn't know
in the last couple of
that.
months. And
Oh,
so she's potentially part of a class action lawsuit where, I mean, this is like a real thing. She could face prison time at this point. She's like, I didn't know. They told me I was putting my name on something and it sounded real good for me for Bitcoins.
oh
And
my
it's really,
God.
it's a crazy situation.
All right, well, back to Summer House.
Yeah. Sorry to throw that out
Oh my
there.
God, no, I'm gonna look into that later. Okay, so then we have like back and forth Summer House, Southern Charm seasons, and you were saying to me earlier, hey, we're not gonna be able to get through this in one episode.
Yeah.
Here's why. Because we then just literally spend season after season back and forth with other cast members just saying, when are you guys gonna get married? When are you gonna move to Charleston? When are you guys gonna get married? When are you moving to Charleston? And that's it. That's all we really get about their
There's a
relationship.
groundhog's yeah, it's a groundhog's day
Yes.
effect with because and I just started to joke about it, like any scene you're gonna see Craig Insecure saying like chicken, when is it gonna happen? When is it gonna happen? Oh, I totally want it to happen. Back and forth, back and forth. We've seen it, and so much so that I started to get conspiratorial about it, where I was like,
Ooh.
oh, well, no, just in the sense that I'm like, dude, they're probably already engaged, and they're just
Oh,
using this as a storyline because they keep doing it. I'm like, at this point, they say they never fight. How is this the only storyline, or this is what they will allow us to see? Because I know there is probably way more going on in their lives, but it just must be like, let's give them a little drama. We'll talk about the Charleston move, where we're going, where we're headed. And it just is the same season after season. But I really bought it. I was more pissed that I just thought that conversation had gotten old and boring. But remember, people in love that are actually with together become old and boring.
yes,
That's actually
totally.
something you want to achieve. Like you want to get to be one of those old boring couples that actually stay together. So I thought in my head that's where they were at.
Totally, which isn't great for reality TV, but they give
No.
enough in other ways that they're still interesting. We still love them
Well,
on reality
yeah,
TV, but if you think about
Paige
it,
is
we don't
still
know
funny.
anything about their relationship. We really don't.
No, that's what was frustrating because I think I've always like Paige is too smart for reality TV. She knows what she's comfortable about. She's laser like in her precision about taking somebody else down or participating in a fight, but usually the fight is never directly about Paige. Like I at one point I was like, are we gonna have a Paige takedown season ever? I was like a real big Lindsay. I am a big Lindsay fan, and so for a while I was
Same.
like, it's just not fair to have Paige going up against Lindsay, and I felt corralling these other ladies against Lindsay when Lindsay would like sometimes have Danielle or she'd have like one person there. And I was like, when is it ever going to turn around on Paige? But also, I think just Paige is way too smart to have that happen to her. And I think that's also why she is potentially really uncomfortable in this moment, because she's finally have what I call the hot potato. Everybody has the hot potato at one point.
Great
It's going to come
point.
around to you. Like, Garcelle on Beverly Hills, you're going to have the hot potato one day. Everything, your shit don't stink now, but you're going to have the hot potato one day. What are you going to do with it? Paige has the hot potato now. And that is probably frustrating because she's comfortable talking about other people, but really probably comfortable talking about herself, obviously on her podcast and her real life to her real friends. But I think there's a part of her that's like, yeah, I don't want that to be on television about me, talking about me.
Right.
That's just a theory. That's just a theory.
No, and I totally get that. And she's gotten away with it for a really long time, being able to sort of keep herself private, while at the same time, and I could be wrong because I don't listen to Giggly Squad very often, but those
I only
people
listen
feel
to
like
clips. I listen to clips or Vanderpump recaps. I think sometimes we'll do that, or I'll pick up, I don't do Reddit, but I'll see information. And I like, first off, you've got to hand it to the success. That show is huge. And hats off to Hannah, who I really annoyed me in the last season of Summer House. But my God, this is how you. But by the way, success is like the ultimate thing. Like just like F the haters, like F me, F that. Look at me, I'm successful. Like there's a part of me that's kind of like proud of that notion of like, look at what you've built. And I'm sure you as a podcaster as well. It's like, look at what you've built. I know what goes into that, even though. Listen, at the end of the day, we work harder at our podcast, but it's neither here nor there. But
seeing their
like,
rating, I was like,
guys.
holy shit, because they have a 4.9 rating, but like 20,000 or like,
Oh,
like
you see,
yeah,
you pay
I stalk
attention to
all
those
that
things.
stuff.
I don't pay attention to those things.
I just want to see how other people are doing.
I stopped. Well, I stopped because it gets me to. If I see somebody negatively said something about me yesterday, and it really does throw you. Like
It really does. I'll cry all day.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm not. It's also not normal. Like it's a very unnormal thing to do, and
People
I
don't typically review you. No.
Yeah, I don't typically review if I was just at a grocery store. I didn't review the checkout
Right.
process or the Girl Scouts that wanted me cookies. Like I didn't any of that. So it is wild, and I don't want to ever take away people's freedom. But I'm like, well, I do have to protect myself just because I know myself well enough where I'm like, well, that will throw me into a dark hole. Like that will throw me into a dark hole. But yeah, so I just stay
You're
away
right.
from that. But yeah, their podcast has nothing to do with Bravo. And I'm like, that's awesome for them. Like Paige does not need reality television at this point. Bravo is lucky to have her.
Totally. But what I do want to know, or I'm curious about, and maybe I'll go back and listen, don't you feel like the Gigglers feel like they know her so well? So I don't know if Giggly Squad, she actually is more open about who she is, but the Gigglers think that they know this woman as if she is their best friend. And they know what kind of guy she's gonna date. They know what kinds of things she's gonna do. Like they
Well,
act
were
like
the
she's their
Gigglers-
best
were-
friend.
Well, see, we're probably the two wrong people to talk about this, but did you get the sense that the Gigglers were in full support of her and Craig when they were going strong?
See, I don't know then because I wasn't paying attention, right?
See,
But
that's the thing,
now
they-
it's like
were the
Joe
Gigglers
DeMelio. She
always-
would never. She would never. It's like, how would you know? How would you know?
Also, yeah,
You didn't know her.
I mean, but were they? Well, also, you can never really know anybody, and on this, it's like a form of Instagram. Like I've actually said a lot of insecure things about myself, or real life events, or I mean, I've spoken about real things on my show, but there's still elements where I'm like, no, I keep that for myself, or I keep that for me. I don't want people knowing that. Like there
Yeah.
are those things. So I would imagine anybody that podcast does the same, including Paige. So what I would imagine is that like Paige just sounds like she's a good time. She's funny. She says things that other girls or guys that listen want to say. Like, oh man, I wish I was that quick on my toes and that funny. I imagine that, and it's like a cool kickback conversation. But I would never I don't listen to a lot of podcasts where I'm like, I think I psychologically know that person. You know?
I just don't know why they feel they do, but that's why I kind of want to go and listen. But a couple other things I just want to mention about what we did see during their relationship was, and these aren't, again, bad things, it's just things that we've noticed, where when Craig would bring up marriage, there was that one period of time where Paige started to cry and said she doesn't want to leave her mom, right? So that one had more to do with the distance, because if she were to move to South Carolina, for example, her mom wouldn't be there to help her raise her children, which is really important. I mean, we know that's something Amanda wants. She wants to be near her mother in New Jersey. So that sort of makes sense. And then we see other times where he brings up marriage and she says like, blah. And I don't know, right? I mean, then we see last season where Craig actually says near the end of the season to Kyle, like,
Yeah.
of Summer House, like, if it doesn't work out, that's a possibility. We haven't worked out like some of these
See,
major
I
things, and
almost
if it
thought
doesn't
that
work out,
conversation, I thought that conversation with Kyle at the time, I was like, I almost thought that was yeah, I'm going to say this and hope Paige sees it when the edit comes out and goes, oh, like, hey, kind of like a shit or get off the pot kind of thing of like, you know
yeah,
what, I'll be fine regardless. I don't know how much Craig actually believed that in that moment, in that conversation with
I
Kyle. I
agree.
think
Mhm.
a lot of men, maybe I think Craig as well, will talk tougher than they are. And that's why I think I even said on my show is that, we all, the conventional wisdom is that women are so much more emotional than men, and I would really argue the opposite is that men are way more emotional than women. It's just that we internalize that emotion and it comes out in such really horrific ways and behavior, whereas women will outwardly do it, but then they're like solid inside, like they're able to like kind of like exercise those
Yeah,
demons, where with men it's just like they just keep putting it on like this armor and it just never gets better. So
yeah.
like they never deal with the overall issue to begin with.
I wonder if though there was a part of him that was trying to set himself up though for the idea that it might happen,
Uh,
like to prepare
that the
himself
marriage
for it,
might happen or
that
it
they
might
might
break
not
up.
happen. Yeah.
I really hope so. I hope so. But I just, like I said, like that's just gambling on. And then we have to also take into account the fact that, and I want to be gentle with this, is that because he's not going to agree with it, not that he's listening.
He would never listen
Craig
to
has
this.
been Craig has been known to be a liar. Like, so even
Yes.
Watch What Happens Live, he did a great appearance this past week where I thought he handled himself really well, said all of these details. All of it made sense, but then I was like, well, but these could be lies. These could be lies. He's like, we've literally done editor trolls of Craig lying, and Craig still has lied, saying, I've still never lied, even though we've seen it with our own eyes, even though his own castmates like Shep and Austin go, well, he has a really weird, relationship with the truth. That's that thing of like, how comfortable is he with lying and lying to himself?
I think very. Ugh, and I wonder if that has any, I'm just thinking of this now. I wonder if that's had any impact on their relationship. I mean, again, we have absolutely no idea what their issues are, but I wonder if he would tell little fibs here and there to the point where she's like, I am not about this anymore.
This is my big question. And normally what we have here is a breakup that was essentially done the right way. Like it still hurts. It still hurts for us as the viewers and all that
Father
stuff.
God,
But
you know.
but like essentially like she broke up with him, did not cheat, did not any of these things, right? So that is done the right way. We now the audience are making it a thing. Like we're going to get every ounce of information out of this. So like now Craig does this. Now is Paige going to answer now? Even though I think on Giggly Squad she said this is the last thing I'm going to talk about this. But now if
Who
shots are
knows?
fired, is she going to be like, this now is enraging me because he lied about this, he lied about this, he lied about this. That's what I'm curious about. And does that then start this war, which is basically already just a sad breakup, but a breakup that was done the right way? We've all experienced breakups. Some have been done the right way, some have been done the wrong way. This was done the right way, but now we're making it the wrong way. I don't know. It's like Inception. I'm like, we are going to make this some sort of scandal. We are going to find a way to make this a scandal.
Okay, I totally agree with you there. And I will, I'll put my hand up and admit that I started a little bit on that too. But then other people were doing it, Ryan. It wasn't just me. Like, for example, our baby Snarks, right? They mentioned this beautiful rumor that they heard. So I'm going to spread the rumor because I want to support Sophie and Christy, okay? They are
Well,
friends of mine. So I want to support them. So I spread their rumor. And then people came for me.
well, listen, Sophie is one of my dearest friends and co-host of my pop culture roundup, which I love. And Snarkbait, amazing. I'm so proud of them. And Sophie can talk about things that I can't, and she's more comfortable about it. And she's, just matter of factly, she's smarter than me, but I am not. I think it's also just my age, and I've gone through things in life, and also just looking at things where I'm like, well, this side or that side, even with Lively and Baldoni, I'm like, okay, trying to weigh these things and also realize that life is just fucking insane. Like, really, life is insane. So many things happen. And also sometimes the easiest answer is usually sometimes the right answer. And everything's not this vast conspiracy. And I
Because where
kind
that
of,
went was ridiculous, all the way to that SNL guy.
Well, yeah, so I've learned, Marcelo Hernandez. Like, so I've spent like 5 years doing this, and I will say, like, 25% of the time, these rumors they turn out to be true, and that's why these things will keep being paid attention to. But 75% of them usually are the biggest bunch of horseshit that it's almost like fan fiction, and it's sad because a lie will always spread way faster than the truth, and a lie is always way more exciting to believe and speculate about than the truth. Because in reality, what if Paige just like it's exciting to think Paige might have had some DM relationship with this dude. What's his name?
Joe D'Amelio.
Joe D'Amelio. Man,
now
that's
a household name. I've never heard of this person before.
We see him at the Eagles game. We know through Dumas they spent New Year's Eve together. But if they broke up the weekend after Thanksgiving, that would technically be legal in terms of our judge, jury, and executioner theory.
Right.
So that would be legal. But it is so exciting for us to believe that they might have had this huge DM relationship for maybe months before this, that maybe Paige is trying to like skirt the rules of breaking up with somebody, when in fact, like what she said, I believe on Giggly Squad is like, I am single and I am doing single girl things, which is also, you know, like guys are out, like just Austin and Craig and Shep through the years. You know how many times they've gone on King Street and just one night stand after one night stand doing single guy things? Paige should have the same, women should have that same right. And it's unfortunate, once again, because you're on TV and you're famous, we get to speculate about it, which is your worst nightmare. Everybody out there listening who have had one night stands, imagine all of a sudden Dumas posting about your one night stand and going, oh my God, oh, I was just doing single girl guy things. Like, what? Oh my God. It would be insane. But it's really exciting to believe that there's a conspiracy.
Okay, but I want to say for the record that every time it sort of dies down, something does come up. Okay, what about Rachel Durante, Joe D'Amelio's ex, who puts a timeline out there that's adding something?
Does your audience already know about this? Did you already speak about this? So they know. Okay, so yeah, there's a bit of proof, but then there was also this kind of thing of like, well, this person was trying to get a little clout, maybe, or this, there's an argument. But
I'm not saying anything's true. I'm just saying
very suspicious. And also, if you were with this person, you are looking for every way to hate this person that broke your heart. You are going to believe everything, that, yes, that is just normal breakup stuff. You're never going to, I've learned this hard, you're never going to escape somebody's pain that you've caused. It's really a hard thing. And we've all been there at a certain point. That's why I find it hard that we don't kind of recognize that. But what I will, Summer House comes back on Wednesday, right? This story is not over yet between Paige and Craig. So they picked back up cameras on Southern Charm. We saw that in the mid-season trailer because he comes in carrying his Diet Coke with, Shep and Austin and, oh, she wanted me to buy her a ring. We see that part of the trailer. So we can assume, if we're Bravo lovers, that if they picked back up cameras for Southern Charm, they're going to pick back up cameras for Summer House because Paige and Craig are very equally important to Bravo. Yeah. And they also know the audience's fascination with their relationship and them. So I would assume the cameras would pick up for Summer House. I also think, I'm just saying the story will continue, and it's after Wednesday. I think there's going to be a little bit more.
Oh, this is our new Baldoni Lively. Like, we're doing an hour now, but then we're going to be doing this every week for the next 6 years. Okay.
I will say, unfortunately, the story will continue. There will be other pieces of information that come out. I highly recommend everybody watch Summer House for the entire hour.
Why are you saying it like that? Do you have some information? Have you seen the episode? Because you get
I have seen the episode. It's a supersized episode. It's an hour and 30 minutes, I believe, or an hour and 15 minutes. Hour and 15.
Do you have time right now to go through it line by line?
Yeah. No, listen, that's why I'm like, I take those things so seriously, and I don't want to ruin anybody's good time. And I don't want to ever get in trouble in that sense. All I will say, it's a great first episode, not just because of Paige or what. I mean, there's so many, the Lindsay revealing the pregnancy to the cat. I mean, it's so good. Like, you got Wes and Jesse being goofy douchebags, there are so many little elements that I really loved about that first episode of Summer House, but there is an element of Craig and Paige in that episode that I think people are going to be very it's just going to inspire more conversation. So I'm very excited for Wednesday for people to see this, but it will add another element to what we're talking about today.
So I want to touch on that, and I don't know if this is to what you are referring, but Nick Viall had Carl on his podcast last week, and I think
Yeah.
you can appreciate this because you hate Nick as much as I do, I think.
Listen,
Here-
wait. I want to take that back. I
No, but I just
don't.
want to tell you what happened to me.
Sophie has a white hot burning passion for Nick. There are elements of Nick I don't like. I am insanely jealous of the interviews
Same.
he gets and the access he gets.
Same.
And I hope to one day be in a position of Nick Viall. That I will say that. So there's jealousy there on my part.
Same. Totally get it. But this is what happened to me, and I just feel like you can appreciate it, so I just want to read this to you, okay? This is December 18th. This is a DM that I got from Carl Radke. Hey, Dana. I'm talking to my assistant, and she mentioned that you and your team reached out about doing your podcast. I'm down to do it! Exclamation point. Just have to go through Bravo NBC PR to approve. My assistant will send it over. And then it never happened. And then all of a sudden, he shows up on the Viall Files for my deep dive interview. I was going to ask about
Yeah.
his addiction, his
They'll
brother.
never give.
Oh,
They'll
man.
never. This is how this works. They'll never give it to us. I mean, they'll give it like
To you.
sometimes I'll get like a well, no, but I'll never. This is how the hierarchy works, and I don't. But like they will give me those interviews, but I will never be able to go as deep. And if I do get something out of it, they usually make me edit it out because they're in
I remember
such
you having to do that with, like,
protection of that
Kristen and-
information.
yeah,
So I've had to cut whole episodes.
I remember.
But so with like Nick, because he has such a huge podcast, or I'm trying to think of other examples, but the big ones, they will allow them to go further and reveal a lot of stuff. So those are the interviews we're all trying to get to do eventually. Like I'm in the coal mines working to get to that point. And it's a really hard battle because you have to then make yourself as famous as somebody like Nick Viall. And I'm just too old to go on reality television at this point. So I'm pretty much screwed.
I think
But
you guys
yeah,
are the same
unfortunately-
age.
Yeah,
Aren't you
but
basically the same age as
well, but
Nick?
listen, I should. Well, I always say, like I always said, oh man, if I could go back and do it all again, I would have tried to be on a reality show, so my podcast could be more popular. That's what I
Honestly,
always say.
for the followers.
I don't even. I never want to be on reality television, but I would do it just so I could have more recognition for the podcast.
Totally.
But yeah, that happens all the time, and I'm sorry you had to go through that.
So I didn't
but-
listen to the episode because it was
But
too painful.
there was good information in there. There was good information in that.
So-
Great stuff.
So that's what I wanted to mention. Just the little bit that he did mention about Summer House, he alludes to the fact that Craig's drinking was an issue to the point where Paige had said something to the effect of, I can't do this anymore. So we got a little bit there, and I wonder if that will be part of this Summer House season, and that will give us a little information, or if that's what you're hinting at, or if there's something in that regard that where we might actually see a little bit more of the downfall of their relationship in relation to drinking. Because, like I said, we look back at Winter House, and if you look back at the beginning of Southern Charm this season, where all Craig wants to do is work and fuck his girlfriend, that's it. He also says, like, I stopped drinking as much, and it's made my relationship so much better. And I don't know if anyone had clocked that. You clocked it, okay? Because I feel like no one
but
else
also
really
remember,
did.
because Austin
But
and
what
Shep,
happened to
Austin's
your
like, you don't want to
relationship?
hang out with me because you're sober now pretty much, and you don't want to party on King Street with us, and giving him shit about this, which I always thought, like, this is where I was talking about with Craig with growth of like, they were like, you're all about business now. Yes, he has something to protect. He wants to do good at business. He wants, and I love all of his friends are like, you've changed, you loser. You don't want
He's
to
like, I'm
fucking fall
supposed
down
to.
drunk with me. Like, I'm like, that is something to encourage. Like, that is something to be like, dude, you've got the life. Yeah, I'll come party with you in your backyard pool area here where you're chopping up pineapple all the time. Yeah, let's do that. Instead, they're all like, you're weird now. You won't go out. I mean, Craig sometimes takes it to an extreme, but I mean, that's what I'm talking about in change. It's hard because it doesn't make you nearly as excited on reality television because we really tend to sensationalize the people that are just hot messes. But I thought it was growth, and I thought it was also growth for his relationship with Paige. But also I'm talking about, Dana, is the Summer House trailer for the season. Remember, there's a scene with Paige crying to Sierra saying, and we break up, I just lose everything.
Everything will go away. Yeah.
Everything will go away.
Which I thought was
So
clickbait at the time. I was just like, oh, they're
But
just trying to drag us in, but they were still together at the time.
They were still together at the time. But then if that's not clickbait and we know what happens now, is there a world in which obviously Paige had been thinking about this for a hot minute? Maybe Craig wasn't aware of it, but maybe Paige was. And she really, and this is a very normal feeling, thought,
Yes.
well, how is this going to affect my life? And I mean, do fans like me just because I'm with Craig and we're like the Bravo it couple? And I don't know if that's necessarily true, but that like
It's a
there's got to be
brand
a lot
thing.
of
It's a
stuff. It's
thing.
a brand, yes.
We saw Sandoval be so worried about his
Well,
brand,
think
his
about
brand.
Sandoval. Like me and Ariana are just a brand at this point, dude. Like that's a very serious thing, and I can see being very emotional. We all are like that of like just like, oh, where is my life without this person or
Mhm.
without this thing? Will people give a shit about me still? And so I'm theorizing, and this is not what I was talking about in terms of watching the show, is that I have this sneaking suspicion that this thought had been in Paige's mind for a while. And she wanted it to work out, and she really expected it and thought it would. But I think there was creeping suspicion maybe for maybe who knows, a lot longer than just do it really just spur of the moment on Thanksgiving.
I think that's so normal, though. Most people don't just break up spur of the moment on Thanksgiving. She probably has been thinking about it for a while, and
Well,
it's
she did it
something.
on the phone after Thanksgiving, according to Craig on Watch What Happens Live.
Ugh, okay, so let's get into that a little bit, because you have to go
But
soon. So
no, I'm good. I'm good a little more time. But also just remember too, the other thing that's makes me curious is remember how Sierra has never been 100% for Craig and Paige. Like remember how she's
no.
always been like she'll always be like. I just don't like the way he treats you that this or that. Like she'll
Hmm.
always like she likes Craig, but haven't you caught comments on Summer House and all that when they've talked about the relationship and she'll always just be so pro Paige and just like, dude, I don't even listen to what he's saying. I want you to believe. Like I've just clocked that a couple of times very subtly, and I think that's always interesting because they do hang out outside of filming.
That's really interesting. One other thing I want to mention that Carl said on the Bio Files, he said the version that you're seeing of him on Southern Charm, like the business Craig, like he's serious and focused, that's good. That's cool to see. I worry it's a little too manufactured. So that's interesting because you were just talking about growth. And again, we don't know any of these people IRL, or maybe you do, but like I'm curious if that's a little bit of a facade. I hope not. I hope he has grown and I hope he continues to grow because the person, and I think he would even agree that the person he is now post Page, he appreciates everything that he's learned through Page and will continue to
No,
grow
he
and
said that.
prosper from it.
I,
He did say
I
that.
mean,
Yeah, he did.
Craig said that I watch What Happens Live.
Yeah.
I'm a better person now after, like, because of Paige in this relationship. And, Dan Savage, a podcaster that I listen to, it's, more sex and relationship advice, but he always says, leave a person better than, than you began with them, try to leave them a better person afterwards, which is very hard to do.
It
But,
is.
I think in Paige's case, Craig seems like he is a better person or acknowledges he's a better person. And I still think Craig has his story to tell, which he was telling on Watch What Happens Live. And I also find it fair that he doesn't want to be involved in the cheating rumors. Like, that's not my thing, man. I'm not part of that. I don't want to be a part of that.
Do you agree?
Um,
Like that's not his responsibility to debunk a cheating
this
rumor
is
for
a
her?
unpopular opinion, but yeah, I don't think it's his
I
responsibility.
agree
Like,
with you.
I don't think the person that got broken up with
Has to do anything.
obviously, this guy thought Paige was his end game. And also, there's an age difference, all of this stuff. But he not put all his eggs because I know he knows he has, by the way, Craig, we should feel he's an attractive rich person. He's fine. But emotionally, he put all his eggs in that basket, I think. And so if he got broken up with and he was still shocked, even if Paige says, it wasn't completely out of the blue, but he seemed pretty shocked. Why would he then have to be like, hey, oh, I'm coming on here to say Paige didn't cheat. I love her so much. She's amazing. Like, no, like he's dealing with his own shit. And also, this is like Paige is so damn smart and funny. It's like, yes, this sucks for Paige right now to have these rumors. It must hurt. But like, man, I don't know any better spokesperson for Paige than Paige because she's able to usually talk anybody off of a ledge, like have a funny, witty thing to say. And I think she's handled herself really great in terms of like defending herself or even just saying this is ridiculous. It just still must be overwhelming for her. But I personally do not find why Craig needed to be the one to stand up because she said it. He said but also we do. Obviously, she's still single, but come on, there's something she might have gone on a date with the D'Amelio guy. And by the way, that's completely fine and on above board. But why is Craig deep in pain, not wanting to see his former girlfriend of 3 years at an Eagles game with Joe D'Amelio? Then he has to hop on and go, she's awesome and always has been. But I do believe she didn't cheat. I mean, technically, I don't think she ever physically cheated at all.
It was funny though when he said that he's like I'm not here like in Reddit like looking at what everyone's doing. Sir, you have blocked many of us. You are deep in the internet. You've blocked Sophie.
He
You've
blocked
blocked
me at one
Christy.
time too.
He
Yeah,
blocked you
like
too.
he's
He
very
knows who
aware.
we
Yeah.
are. So you're very much on the internet. And it was funny when she said or he said that she broke up with him after while he was in Toronto. So I looked up the date of that because that's where I am. I'm in Toronto. So that was December the 2nd. And when is your guys' Thanksgiving in the US? Because we have a different
It was
US.
like
Or we
the
have a different
Thursday. It's
Thanksgiving.
always a Thursday.
It's a Thursday. So it's probably just
Uh
that weekend, early December, because I was just looking at that date. I didn't go
yeah,
to that
because he
show.
said he was at Thanksgiving with her family, and then he had
Hmm.
to go do something, an event,
Yeah, I think it was a
and
Pillows and Beer live show or something.
great, great. Wait, with Austin? Because I thought
I
the
think
podcast was done.
I think
Okay,
that was the
okay.
last one, but that was a live show.
Okay. So yeah, so she said it did it over FaceTime
Hmm.
that weekend. But this is the part that I get kind of hazy on is like if somebody does that, if you say to us, even on the most recent episode of Southern Charm and Watch What Happens Live, Paige and me never fought. If you never fought with Paige, and then all of a sudden this person you never fight with says, I think we need to break up, I wouldn't be like, oh, I just think you're having a bad night. I'll let it sit for a week and we'll come back to it. Like that was the part that I didn't necessarily understand when he was telling Andy, where I was like, I'd be on that thing every day of like, are you fucking kidding me? Are we broken up? Like what? Like that's more than like threatening to end threaten actually breaking up with somebody is more than just having a bad night.
Do you think maybe you know how he says she changes her mind a lot, or we heard that recently?
Sure.
Just putting it out there as an idea. Maybe he's
Well,
like, oh, she does this. She
yes.
she says things
Yes,
like
but
this. I
yeah,
don't know.
but well, I would then follow up question, has she broken up with you before, which Andy
Hmm.
didn't ask, because that could be it's a pattern for some couples. Like, have you broken up before? We wouldn't have known because you keep everything so private. So was this a pattern of you guys breaking up? Because that would actually then make a lot more sense. And I do believe, because then he was starting the Southern Charm press tour, which he was on
Hmm.
talking about Paige, even though they had broken up already. But he explained that was like the first week. I was still staying at her apartment in New York. And I think there was this element of, what they were talking about stages of grief, of
Yeah.
denial, or like,
Yeah, you're still processing.
I think he thought he could win her back. I think he thought,
Oh.
okay, this is not actually happening. I can win her back. So I think there's that element as well with Craig, which he hasn't
Hmm.
admitted yet, but I believe that to be true.
I do just want to mention the Andy of it all because he said, "Oh, Andy, as you know, I was going to be moving to New York about things that we're not talking about." Now, did anyone else clock that? Because to me, that means like, why does Andy know? Andy's not a friend of yours. Andy knows this because to me, it sounds like you guys are either getting a spin-off show, he's going to be on Summer House, or there was one other weird thing I heard last week. He was doing this was before he was on Watch What Happens Live. He did one of those like home and garden shows or something. He did
Yeah.
mention, "Oh, I was going to be moving to New York to be a producer." Of what? Of Summer House? Like, is he going to be behind the camera being like, "You're doing amazing, sweetie"? Like, I'm not quite sure, but it sounds like for Andy to be aware that he was moving to New York and to say it like, for reasons that we're not talking about, to me sounds like a Bravo reason. Like, not just
Well, I
because
mean, I
Andy's a
think there's
friend of
an
ours.
element. Well, I do think there's an element of they are casually in I mean, I
Yeah.
know they have each other's numbers, and I know Andy's talked about like I know they were on a train randomly together, and they
Hmm.
ended up talking for hours. Like, I
Okay.
mean, there is this element of that, but I do think it comes up in Summer House probably about moving to New York. I believe that potentially is a storyline. That's my guess. Like I said, that's not in this first episode, but
Hmm.
that is my guess. So he was making plans. And that's what I thought all along was that like Craig seemed like he was like more and more okay. Even that night of the Southern Charm premiere when he was on Watch What Happens Live, he said, "Oh, I really like it here. I could see myself being here." They were broken up, but it was another one of those things where I think Craig would have made so many more allowances for Paige, but she just kept pushing the goalpost further and further apart.
Yeah. And I hate to sort of end it on this, even though it's kind of sad, but when we see in that mid-season trailer, Southern Charm, where Craig says, it just really resonated with me. He said something like, breakups are so weird because it's like that person is your everything, and then you never speak to them again, like they're a ghost. And
That
it's
dude,
so true, right?
I literally was talking to Sophie yesterday and I picked that moment specifically and I said, that is the thing that got me because it's so like think about it. Like
It's
these are
it's
like
wild.
he goes
Been
literally
years with somebody.
my favorite person in the world and now she's a ghost. And now we don't talk, we don't text, she's blocked. No matter if you hate Craig, love Craig, hate Paige, love Paige, that is an intense thing. And also, Paige obviously is a really strong person, but I'm sure she's going through suffering as well. Or, sometimes grief and suffering don't happen until months later. Sometimes you're just so riding this like kick where you're just like, like it's so much adrenaline and like, okay, this is exciting to be, I don't have to talk to Paige Craig every 10 times, which is not that she hated it, but like, oh my God, I have this freedom. I have this newfound freedom. What am I going to do with it? And you go crazy. You go crazy. You do some things that you're like looking back, I wish I hadn't have done that, but you're like sowing your wild oats. You're doing crazy fun things. You might then catch up to those feelings of grief and loss and because I think they did probably have a lot of amazing times in their relationship. Like I remember I was at some DirecTV women in reality television event last November. And it was this beautiful dinner. I was like, wow, I can't, so many reality stars there. And Craig and Paige were there. And he was like, Paige was speaking. And he was just beaming, like just beaming. Like you could just tell this guy. And by the way, I mean, it didn't seem like she didn't like, I mean, she seemed like she was totally into it too. And that was another reason why I was like, dude, he's like coming to her on these things. It just seems like they really support each other. So I think they had a really good relationship for a very long time. But I think sometimes people do just want different things. And Craig said it kind of, love is enough, but sometimes like she wants these things with probably somebody else and not me. And that's
that
something
hurt
you
to
have
hear,
to
though.
accept.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like that is like being brutally honest, that is the case as of now. But also like he is just in such a different age, had so many different experiences. Paige will, I don't know, just life is hard. Life is hard, you guys. Like it's hard. Yeah.
It is.
But
And
it's interesting. It's
it
interesting.
is. And I still even feel for her a bit because when they showed that one scene last week where she's like, I'm 31, like I'm still really young. And I was like, oh my God, she's only 31.
I was like, first off, fuck you. Fuck you. That's where I'm like, that's the most angry. I'm like, just 30. How dare you be 30?
How dare you?
How
That's
dare
like a
you
little
still be that
baby.
young?
She's
How
such a little
dare you?
baby. What are you, crazy?
How dare you?
I'm 41 and I just learned how to hard boil an egg. Forget having a kid. That's insane. She's a small child. There's no way she could have a kid.
like-
It's insane to have a child at 31.
God.
Way too young. No.
No, I mean that's the other thing too, and especially in the industry that she's in and the opportunities she's getting. I mean, you're selling out Radio City Music Hall 2 nights in a row. Like, are you kidding me? Like, that is a lot. That's a baby in itself. Like that's a lot. And also, having those parasocial relationships formed from that. Your head is in a lot of different. It's not like you're like the best tax accountant out there. You're a reality star that has like this podcast. Like you have all of these. You're a fashion stylist. Your hands are in so many different pots that it's hard to keep this relationship where you are like skyrocketing towards marriage and a baby. That's a really hard concept to come with when you keep getting more and more success outside of that relationship.
Yeah. How can you say no? It's two very different trajectories, right? And it's like, how can you say no to like stardom? She's doing everything. Why would you turn that down? She's only going to keep going up from here.
You wouldn't hate a man for that.
No.
I mean, you might bash him on Reddit or something, but like
Nick Vile.
Yeah, you might bash him on that. But like at the end of the day, you're just like, it sucks. It sucks because I do feel for Craig. I feel like empathy, deep empathy. You could tell he's going through it, and because obviously he'll be able to find somebody else. But I think I always just get nervous for people like that. Will Paige always be, and this is a horrible example, his like great white whale in Moby Dick, like the one that like the thing that his rosebud from Citizen Kane, will it always be in the back of his head where every girl from this point will be compared to Paige? And even if he settles down and gets married, it'll always be, what if this could have been with Paige? And that is my dark soul.
No.
That is my dark, depressive soul. Like that's what I think about. Will he always think about what this could have been? And part of me, and this is probably why it went on up, part of me thinks that Paige will never think that. And I hate to say that. And that doesn't make her a bad person,
No.
it's age.
Ryan, on that beautiful note,
what a
thank
great
you so
way.
much for being
what a
here.
fun episode, you guys. We really found a way to really brighten it up at the end. I've done that now on 2 pods this week. My episode tomorrow, my Monday episode, like ends so badly and so horrifically where I was like, oh, wow, I don't even know a way to bring this back to funny at all.
I can't wait to hear it.
Yeah.
I love a mix of it all. But why don't you tell the people where they can follow you if they want to see what you have going on?
Yeah, So Bad It's Good with Ryan Bailey. The pod, I don't know, 30 episodes a week. I'm not sure. We have a Patreon, patreon.com/So Bad It's Good. We do Q&As, Vanderpump Rules, old season recaps. Come join. We do a live Patreon every month. We have a YouTube channel if you want to see some of this visually. I'm on Jeff Lewis Live usually once a week now. That's cool. Instagram, So Bad It's Good. I don't know, you guys. But more importantly, I always say this with any podcast is that it's cool if, well, it's not cool if you hate me. That sucks. But more importantly, this podcast right here that you're listening to, rate it 5 stars on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Subscribe. You know, these things actually do make a difference. I hate that they make a difference, but they do. So if you're listening to this and enjoyed any part of it, even though just the intro before I came on, rate it 5 stars. It's like the easiest, simplest way to support a podcaster that does this for free, in hopes of doing this just professionally. So you got, this is like supporting an independent music artist, you know, like you can say you knew him when. So support that, because I think, you know, obviously as podcast listeners, we don't think about that. We're just enjoying listening to the show. You're not thinking about, oh, should I hit something? Hit something. Hit the 5 stars, Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Subscribe, tell your friends, all of that stuff. But yeah, this was great. This was a blast.
Thank you so much. And everyone do the same for Ryan. Thanks so much, Ryan. Have a good one.
But don't do it negatively. Only if you want to do it
only
positively.
positive.
Don't
Yes.
go like, only positive. Yeah.
Only 5 stars, or 5 stars or bust. Okay, bye.
All right.
Thank you for listening to the Bravo Investigator Podcast in partnership with Hurrdat Media. You can watch full-length videos on Hurrdat Entertainment's YouTube channel. Follow me on Instagram and TikTok at the Bravo Investigator. If you enjoy the show, please leave me a 5-star review. Love you, BBs. See you next time.
A Hurrdat Media Production.